Flipping Junkie Podcast, episode 60. Welcome to the Flipping Junkie Podcast. My name is Danny Johnson, former software developer turned house flipper, flipping hundreds of houses. Each week, we bring you interviews, strategies, stories, and motivation to help you get started flipping houses and on your way to becoming your own boss and achieving financial freedom. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get to it. All right, hey Bill, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, Danny, thanks for having me.
Yeah, today I've got Bill Allen. This is Bill. He's on. This is the first time I think I've done the video from the start, so it's kind of awkward. I'm not sure how to approach the whole intro here, so it'll be interesting. But being that I didn't do a beginning, thing about your background, how about you share with people, how you got started, what you do, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay. Well, I have a full-time job as a Navy pilot, so I've been in the Navy for about 14 years. I'm just getting ready to transition out of the military and go part-time as a reservist here in April. So I've been flying helicopters and airplanes for the last 14 years. But I got into real estate a few years ago. I've moved from town to town with the Navy, so I've been buying houses and moving out of them and renting them out. So I was a landlord since about 2006. And then probably 3 years ago, I started running out of money for rentals, so I started getting interested in flipping houses. So found some money, flipped a couple of houses, and then just kind of fell in love with that. So I've been creating a business this year to help me transition out of the military. Or last year, I should say, 2016, I started this business kind of full-time, flipping, wholesaling, and I still have a bunch of rentals myself. So kind of fell in love with real estate, great way to build wealth. So I just continued down that path, and I really enjoy it. So get out of the Navy, fly part-time, and do this the rest of the time.
Yeah, and Bill's a little bit too humble. He's really kicking butt, and he's doing a lot and growing really quick, and I think he's kind of crazy for wanting to get out of flying what he gets to fly and all that. And that's part of my selfish thing, is getting him on here, is trying to talk him into flying down here and allowing me to go up in the air with him. But anyway.
Well, going into reserves, I'll still get to fly.
Oh, okay.
When I want to, so I'll still get to stay in Pensacola. I'll still keep flying, and I just won't have to do a lot of the. My next job is going to be a desk job. So I said, the only way that I can keep flying is to actually get out and go part-time and go in the reserves and keep flying for as long as I can. So I love to fly. So if I can keep doing that part of the job, I'll do it.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite thing to fly in the past or future or present?
I got the chance to fly a T-38, so twin engine jet trainer. That was pretty awesome. Although it was less than an hour of flight time, but we broke the speed of sound on that flight and got to do a bunch of aerobatics. So I like
Nice.
that. But there's little turboprop single engines that we fly, the T-34 and now the T-6. I really enjoy flying those too. I was a test pilot in Pax River, so when I was at school in England, I got to fly a lot of different helicopters and airplanes. And I really enjoyed flying the Apache and the Chinook, so were probably two of my favorites there. So I did get to fly a bunch of different things, and I never have a problem. I'll fly anything.
Yeah.
Fly a little Cessna, I'll have fun, so.
That's awesome.
Okay.
All right, well, I wanted to talk with you today about analyzing deals. So we've gone through this whole series of mindset and marketing, funding, and all that kind of stuff. And now we're at the point where people are getting calls, getting some leads, and they need to figure out how to analyze these deals so that they know what they can offer for them to make out. And I know that depends on exit strategy and stuff like that, but just to give this some sort of a direction, maybe we can start with how you analyze deals. When you get calls, what do you do to figure out whether you can make an offer on them and what kind of offer you can make?
Sure. I would say I can give you a couple different answers. So we can talk about how I used to do it, like when it was just me and I was a one-man show. So probably a lot of your listeners are doing that.
Yeah, let's do that.
And then maybe how we do it now from a business that we run that has a wholesale side and a flipping side. So when I was just starting out, I didn't even know that I could do all this marketing and things like that. So I was looking on MLS and analyzing deals. And even when I was doing some of my own marketing, same thing. But a lot of people probably use the 70% rule minus repairs. So that's kind of where I started kind of running those kind of numbers, but then I would dig in a little bit more on the numbers. But if it was close to that rule, then I would look at it a little deeper. So if it was way off and I knew that they weren't moving in price, then I would move on to the next kind of deal. So my recommendation is to have some sort of, back of the envelope math that you do just to kind of see if it's worth spending more time on. And then if it is, then now that's when I dig in a little bit more and kind of break out my costs. And I'll go into that a little bit. So you have the repair costs. Those could change based on scope. So as I walk through it, I can kind of see, hey, I could do this and it will add this much value, or I could do this and it will add this much value.
So when do you do things though? If you get a call from somebody, or even if you're looking on the MLS, when do you determine when to do the comps and figure out what the ARV, the after repaired value is? And how much do you determine before you go out and look at a property?
Well, I would say what they say on the phone is going to be different than what they say in person. So you already talked about marketing and how to talk to people. But I would say if I feel that they're motivated and their numbers don't work for me, I'm still going to go out to the property and meet with them. So I would say, especially when you're just getting started, just meet with as many people as you can. You're just going to build experience. You're going to go see houses. You're going to get an idea of repair costs. You're going to see motivated and non-motivated sellers. So if there's any motivation or the numbers look like they're pretty good, I will always do my research before I go out and talk to the people. So I'll run comps and look and see what I think the repair value is going to be. And I'll use that. I mean, you're going to have to come up with that after repair value to use those basic analysis tools of 70% minus repairs. So get an idea of the repairs based on square footage before I go out there, and then an idea of ARV, and then see kind of where I need to be. And I would say go on appointments. I mean, especially if you initially when I was getting started, I had a full-time job, so I couldn't go on a lot of appointments. So I was just screening out the non-motivated or the people that were asking close to retail, and I probably lost a lot of deals because of that. So when I started hiring people to do that job for me, to go out on the appointments, I was able to probably get a lot more deals because of it. So if you have the time and you can make the time, go on the appointments, even if there's just a hint of motivation.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I try to tell my guys always that it's never about what they ask for and whether they seem motivated or not. It's about what they owe and whether that equity is there to be able to make a deal, or there's a situation for a short sale. But I don't remember last time I even tried to do a short sale. But
well, I've had some people even bring money to the table. They were so motivated to get rid of the house. So sometimes it's hard to get out of them what they owe on the house, and sometimes it comes up on the title search. There's lots of things that we've seen, but I would say just go out there and go on the appointment.
And for new people, new people, sometimes it's even easier when there's no possibility of a deal. I mean, you don't want to waste a bunch of people's time. If they're pretty limited on time and they're in a hurry, don't do that. But, if there's no possibility of a deal and you're really nervous as heck about, and that's usually what creates the anxiety, right? Is like going to a house when you're new and wondering if this is a deal and you're going to lose it because you don't know what to do. But if you go there and you're like, this is a very slim to none chance of this being a deal, so I can just go there and fumble through it and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell a really quick story. The second house that I flipped when I first moved back down to Pensacola, we did one in Maryland and then this first one in Florida. I was getting so frustrated. I was marketing, I was doing everything. I couldn't find a deal. There was nothing on the MLS. I was so frustrated. I almost quit at that time. And I was driving home from work. I saw a sign that said estate sale, and I'd been listening to podcasts, and I was still kind of learning. And I said, people buy houses at estate sales all the time. So I went to this estate sale. I was in my flight suit. I was walking around the house, and I was there because I wanted to talk to them about their house. I wasn't buying their old furniture. So the widow was there, and so was the son. And I just talked to them, pulled the son aside and said, hey, this is what I do. If you guys have any interest, I left my business card. They called a couple days later. I ended up being able to walk through the deal, finding a number that worked for both of us. And
nice.
We made great money on that house. So you never know where you're going to come across a property, but don't be scared to, just to kind of go in there and tell them what you do, even if you don't know what you're talking about, because that's pretty much where I was. I had done one in the past that I found on the MLS, never bought one off the MLS, didn't know what kind of contract to write up with them and stuff. So you never know where you're going to find something.
Yeah. How long did it take you from when you got interested and decided you were going to do this to get the first deal that you got?
Well, yeah, not long. I said,
No.
I'm going to do this. I need some money, and I started making some offers. And at that time, I didn't know anything about marketing. I was using a real estate agent and buying off the MLS of foreclosure, and that was only 3 years ago that we did our first deal. So, and that one worked out. So then I tried to look for more on the MLS, and then I realized I got to find a different way to buy houses. So,
Yeah. So would you say all of your deals now are off market, or you still buy some listed properties?
no, I haven't bought I haven't bought a house off the MLS in about a year and a half. It's not that I won't do it. I just spend more time on direct mail and online advertising and marketing. I just find that I think that I may still be able to get a deal or two on the MLS, but we lost money on the last MLS house that we tried to flip, so it's a little bit too competitive for me, and I think it's a time waster.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I quit after several days in a row of spending 8 or 9 hours going to look at 15 properties and calling in and making the offer right after looking at it and having all of the realtors tell me this one's either gone or it's multiple offer, and, just a pain in the butt. And I know you can still get some of those, but I'm not interested in competing with everybody for the same stuff.
Yeah, I agree. There are people in my market of Pensacola, Florida, that are buying off the MLS and doing pretty well. So, you know what? I take that back. We have one going on right now that I'm JBing on that came off the MLS. Someone brought it to me though. I didn't find it.
Yeah, so they did the work. Yeah, finding.
Yeah.
So back to the analysis of the deal. So you'll figure out whether there's potential, and you do as much as you can to determine where you're going to need to be on it. Then you go to the house and walk through and determine level of repairs based on what. You can do different things for different properties, but what's your...
Yeah, I think the biggest point to make is look for the big expenses. The little stuff you can kind of put in a box typically, but the big things have gotten me in the past. So HVAC units, plumbing, roof, electrical panels that you don't know are copper versus aluminum, things like that. Now, you don't have to be a full-on home inspector, but as you get more experience, I think walking through a property and seeing kind of the level of what's going on and what needs to be done is important. I typically, if I'm looking at a house, I can typically say it's about $20 a square foot is what I use before I go into the house. And that's kind of based on the level of repairs without major expenses. So any of these big units, I'll typically tack that on top. And then we'll go to the property and see what can be reused and what can't. And also when I'm looking at those kind of things, I'm also looking at the comparables in the neighborhood to make sure that I'm not over renovating the property. So you really have to look at your competition and what's sold, and what a lot of times we'll buy stuff and just put it right back up on the MLS almost as is, or just fix a few things, because the biggest thing for me is if I put $1 in, I need to get more than $1 out. Right. So a lot of times I see people put $1 in and get 75 cents out. So
yeah, go in and do too much. And I think that is something for newer people that typically do, is want to make it nice enough to live in themselves, or they're used to a certain level of a house and feel like anything less is, nobody would want it. But it's really more about what other houses people are looking at in that neighborhood when they're looking for a house to buy, and that's what you're being compared against. So if yours stands out, that's all that matters.
Yeah, if you can make your house a little bit better than all the other houses in the neighborhood and priced the same or a little bit less, that's always our goal, because you want to move these properties. You don't want to sit on them too long, and that will eat you up, all the holding costs. So over renovating is something that I probably did when I was getting started. So it's hard. It's easy to do when you watch TV and you see all these things that you want to do, and you just realize also you're probably putting a lot of your sweat equity and time into it too. The other thing that we got hurt on in the beginning was when I was analyzing these properties and getting a deal. I would get the deal, I would buy it, we start renovating it, and I stopped doing all the other things. And so once that house is done, I was working on the house, I was managing the project, I was doing all those things, and just try to save money. So when you run your numbers and you're trying to save money, if you don't spend your time marketing and looking for other deals, it'll be 3 or 4 months before you get another one, just like happened to me. So run the numbers, pay the money to hire somebody to do the work, and you focus on finding properties. That's where the money is.
Yeah. So, being that repair cost estimation is one of the biggest parts of deal analysis, probably one of the most important ones, other than, any part of it really is, because you can lose money. But how did you know much about construction or anything like that, or how did you learn to do
Well, yeah, I'm not a construction guy. I'm not a general contractor, but I had renovated a bunch of my own houses in the past. Like I would watch YouTube and do a bathroom by myself. So I knew kind of what it cost for materials. And now labor was always the question mark when I went to a new market, because I was moving around so much that labor really changed a lot. So, but as far as materials go and quality of work and what I expect, and I could walk through and make a scope of work and kind of have a rough estimate of how much it would cost. I was fortunate that I had walked through Home Depot and Lowe's enough to know that this is what a vanity costs and this is what tile costs and thin set and grout. And so if you haven't done that stuff, one way to do it is just kind of walk through or try to get a price list from some of these websites that offer them. Maybe I think you do, Danny. A rough estimation of what the prices are. So when you walk through these properties with the people that own them, you can kind of just make a check mark and say, this needs to be replaced, this needs to be replaced. But before I flipped that first house, I read a book from Bigger Pockets that Jay Scott did. And really, I followed his spreadsheet in his book. And I think that helped me a lot. I think it's called The Book on Flipping Houses, and then there was an add-on to that of like how to estimate repair costs, and that helped me a lot. There's like 20 chapters in there on different like roofs, plumbing, electrical, and how much you should pay for it. It's a little bit dated, and the prices are higher now, but that really helped me. So, and I used that as a blueprint. I really did.
Yeah, Melissa accused me of I think it was just last night even of using dated pricing, because she's doing a lot more of the flipping management stuff, and we were going over some repair cost because one of the contractors ended up having a problem and couldn't finish, and so we've got one of our other guys going to finish up, and so we're trying to figure out, okay, where was that guy, and this guy's wanting a lot more than what we owed the other guy, and so we're trying to figure all that stuff out, and I threw out some numbers for some of those repairs, and she's like, are you kidding me? She's like, I had a contractor before actually say something about 1965 prices. But there's a big difference in what contractors, some contractors can do it quicker, more efficiently, and a lower price is perfectly fine because they're such a machine, and they've got it down to a nice science to get it done to where they can profit. So
yeah, the other is level of oversight that you're going to have for each person. Like you could sub everything out yourself and pay a little bit less, or you can have a guy that you hand a key to and he hands it back when it's done, and you might have some blue tape on the walls and a little punch list, but overall they did a good job. And that's where I've moved to now, is really getting myself out of the management of subcontractors and getting people in like that. But you realize you're going to pay more when you do that, so you got to find a better deal.
Yeah, and we've got a basic repair cost estimate worksheet that's like just a one-page simple thing, but you can get a general idea, and I'll put that on show notes page at flippingjunkie.com/60, flippingjunkie.com/60. You can download that. But one thing that I was thinking of just now, though, when you were talking about that was, the fact that there's the different levels in different parts of the country, different cities. It's going to be different. There's going to be slight price differences. And probably one of the best things to do, even if you have to pay for it, is find somebody that's doing a lot of rehabs, and then even offer to pay them. It'd probably be worth at least $500, to be able to walk through a property with them and have them tell you what they pay for everything. Even if the house that you walk through doesn't need everything, just go through as if it did and write down everything, labor, materials for every single thing that would need to be replaced. And then what you should be paying for it. And then whenever you go out and hire a contractor, you can figure out what the number should be.
Yeah, I like that. I have my general contractor does a lot of projects for us, and I put him on a monthly stipend to just go look at houses for us. So, I pay him to do our projects, but I also realize his time is valuable too. So I pay him every month like clockwork. He gets a direct deposit, and he's on the hook to go look at properties for me if I'm not sure about it. Maybe it's a maybe on a wholesale deal or a flip for us. He'll go look at it and give me an estimated budget real quick. So the other thing, we just moved from Pensacola to Nashville, and I'm doing some work in my house. So if your house is a little bit dated, why don't you call up a couple general contractors and have them come over to your place and say, hey, how much would it be to do this bathroom? Get some quotes like you're doing some work and shop around. I mean, if you don't have a deal and you want to get some pricing, I mean, you're wasting some people's time, but who knows? Maybe you find a general contractor that you could use on all these other projects. And I also leverage that a lot of times is, hey, this might be the first time and we're negotiating on price, but how would this price be if I brought you 12 more of these houses this year? So, and I'm not promising you that I'll do it, but this is what I want to do. So,
that's a great point. Yeah, you've got to let them know that you're not just a, one job sort of deal. You're going to be bringing in more properties. But yeah, almost always will give you a better price. It's even better if you've got 2 or 3 to prove that you really do have lots of properties. So as you scale up, it becomes easier, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So for the analysis, so you were talking about, simple use of the 70% rule, where it's 70% of the ARV minus repairs, and you figure out repairs. Are there any other situations where you don't use that rule and you just go off of something else?
Yeah, well, I talked about the 70% rule, and I would say go with that if you're new and you've never done it and you're getting started. But be careful, because a lot of times in that 30% that you're cutting off is all your holding costs, all your expenses, and all your profit. So if you're, I'll back up a little bit, because if I'm at $100,000 ARV and I use the 70% rule, I've got holding costs and profit in there. I'm cutting my profit so small. Now, and then if I do a $600,000 house and I use a 70% rule, now I've got 30%. It's a huge profit and a huge holding cost. So realize that 70% rule is probably built for some median home price in the 150 to 250 range, 300. And if you're below that or above that, I never use that rule. So that's when I really start digging into to focus on my numbers. So I think a lot of you in the luxury market, or you're flipping $80,000, $90,000 houses, maybe don't use that at all, and really just work the numbers. Look at the profit that you need to have. The holding cost will be less, but you still want a decent profit if you're going to take the risk of buying that house. Because if your repair budget changes by $10,000 and your profit was only $15,000, now you're making $5,000, and if anything else happens, you're probably losing money. So also on rental properties, if I'm buying rental properties, I'm not doing that. But I mean, this is a flipping show, so everybody wants to flip houses. Right?
Well, they also want to know, like, what do you do with a property that's below median value, or even in a price range or location where nobody's getting new loans, and you want to do something with those deals. So how do you analyze? And it might be a very subjective thing, and if it is, how do you build up to being able to make that decision?
Once you do more than one or two, so as you start getting some experience and you start seeing, like we have a guy in our mastermind group that I sat down with, and he had done like 3 or 4 houses, and his holding cost is outrageous. So we sat down and we looked at look at your numbers and create some data, and then see what rule that you have in your market. So when I sat down in my market, I said, okay, if I use the 70% rule minus repairs, I'm not going to get any deals, because everybody's going to pay more than me. And I shouldn't say overpay, but they'll pay more than me because they're running their numbers tighter. And so what I did was I sat down and said, what are my holding costs? What expenses do I need? And I can create my own calculation of my back of the envelope number now to what's better, because I have actual data to back that up with 10, 15, 20 houses. So, and in his case, if he was using the 70% rule, he'd never buy a house. So we were able to look at his numbers and dig in, and I think he was at 78 or 80% minus repairs, because his resale price was so high. So he was making offers that were way too low, and all the investors were paying more, because he's got $150,000 or $200,000 profit built in there, based on a 70%. So now what I do is I know that it costs me about 8% to sell a house. So that's realtor fees, holding costs, everything else. So I take my 8% off, and that's based on about 6-month hold time. and I take my 8% off, and then I subtract my profit, then I subtract my repairs, and that's when I have my offer price of where I need to be about. And I want to make about 15% on the cash that we have invested in the house or more. So if I can get that number, then it works. So if I have $100,000 invested, I want to at least make $15,000 to $20,000 on the house. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to ever make less than 30 or 35,000. And we do have a kind of a bottom line where about 25 grand is the happy place, kind of the minimum. We might take a little tighter margin if it's a guarantee. We don't have to do a lot of work. There's not a lot of question marks that are going to come in, and I'll take a little bit thinner margin because of that. So I think when you have more numbers, you can actually dig in and be more specific and tighten up your ship a little bit.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and I think it's important to point out when you were saying that 15% on a deal, say 100,000 would be 15,000, and the way you're looking at that is typally 4 to 6 months time of buying and being done with the deal, right?
Yeah.
So annualized, that's 30%.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I'm also factoring in money costs. So a lot of times that's not my money. So my return is a lot higher than that on my money. So let's say I only had $10,000 or $15,000 in the deal. I mean, that's a 200% return.
Right.
And I would just be careful on those smaller deals, just because if anything happens, $10,000, now you're making $5,000, and that can easily be gone with some paybacks to the buyers. They want some concessions or something, and it's depending on your market, what people are paying. I'm not in the market where we have like 5 offers on a house the first day it comes on the market.
Yeah, and here we've got so many problems with foundations, and sometimes, a lot of times we'll budget for foundation, you level it, and lately, I don't know what's happened, but lately, I mean, we've even made it to where we've changed it to where if it needs foundation work, we're wholesaling it. We're not even touching it. We're not going to rehab it. And, what was happening is we'd level them and then doing the static test to make sure all the plumbing lines were still connected and not leaking. There were disconnects everywhere and breaks everywhere. And that's very expensive when they've got a tunnel and all this other stuff to fix all this plumbing underneath the house. And you can, easily spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 more than you thought you would. And so that, that's where that goes into, you're saying, like, if there's not much profit built in and you're cutting it close and something comes up, you could find yourself in a hole pretty quick.
Yeah. I also, we have the same thing with kind of roofs and HVAC units and stuff like that. And our plumbing is all on concrete. So, on slabs. So if I got a plumbing problem, you're talking thousands of dollars to fix it, and you might not even know it till after you buy the house. One thing we didn't talk about was home inspection. So when if you are, having somebody come through and you're making an offer on a house and estimating repairs, I have partnered up with home inspectors in different markets that will just kind of give me a list of what needs to be done, the big ticket items. So if you don't know a lot about construction, just put that contingency in there. See if you can find a guy that will do it for like $150, and he doesn't have to write a report, and he doesn't have to take pictures, and doesn't have to do any of that stuff. So I've been able to partner up with guys that they're willing to take a lot less because it doesn't take them time. They walk through it with me, no pictures, no report, no nothing, just point out the things that need to be done, the big ticket items, and that's saved our butt a lot in the past. So I lost my train of thought a little bit.
No, that's all right. So do you ever crawl through, climb up into attics and crawl underneath houses or anything?
I have done that, yeah. I don't do it anymore, but I used to. And I'll tell you, I like doing it. I don't love going in attics in the summer in Florida, but I would do it when I first was looking at houses, but that's just because it's my personality. I would not recommend that you guys do that if you don't know what you're doing. Because I went through a house by myself, and then I had a home inspector go through on that house that I bought at the estate sale. There was missing, joists up in the ceiling that needed to be replaced that weren't done properly. He found
now that's not typical though.
No, it's not. Yeah. But I think what happened was a tree fell on the house during one of the hurricanes, and they fixed it, but they just didn't fix it right. It wasn't done properly. So that was an extra $1,000 that he found for me that I probably wouldn't have fixed, and may have come up in the home inspection. And had we not fixed it when the ceiling was open and there was no drywall up there, I would have had to rip down everything in a brand new
Wow.
house and try to put in a new ceiling joist. So, but yeah, I think I'm the kind of guy, I want to do it, and then then I'll hire somebody else to do it. So I have a little bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, I didn't have too much of a problem with that. I'm not handy at all. I'm not handy. We fixed up a 100-year-old house that we bought as an investment. Well, we're going to live in it too, and we did. It was close to downtown, and it took about a year. And I didn't do any of the work. The only thing I did on that house was I sanded the floor in the pantry, which was only like 4x4, 4 feet by 4 feet, and that took me like 2 weeks and 20 trips to Home Depot. And it's just ridiculous. So it's very easy for me to avoid doing all that kind of stuff because I'm not good at it.
If I still do that stuff, it still takes me 20 trips to Home Depot.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Lowe's the other day in my personal house like 6 times because I kept getting the wrong item.
Drive you crazy.
It did. Yeah.
But find contractors if you can right away. But so back to analysis. So let's get into some mistakes that people make, and I think we've talked about a lot of ways that people can avoid mistakes. But do you have anything in mind as far as mistakes that you've made or you've seen other people make?
Yeah, we've certainly talked about over renovation, so I've done that in the past. Trying to make the numbers work when they don't. That's one of the biggest things for me. Like when I was just getting started, I would kind of say, well, maybe I could sell it for this. Like if we did this, maybe I can increase the after repair value by $20,000. And it didn't work. We've tried it, and that's one of the biggest things. Also holding costs, like not properly estimating the holding costs and how long you're actually going to keep this property. You think it might be finished in a month, and it takes the contractor 3 months, and then it sits on the market for a few more.
And you've got to know, because I've been shocked several times. If you don't know what your holding costs are per month, even down to per day maybe, like you're going to freak out sometimes if something's going to overrun, and before you know it, you've had a property for 8-9 months, and you calculate your interest and all this other holding costs, and you're blown away by what that adds up to. It can be a shocking thing. So having that in mind, knowing that, every month this thing's going to cost me $2,500. You're going to make sure that you're not having time just sit there and wasting time having things done.
You brought up interest, and I know you've talked about finding money, and sometimes that's the biggest thing that you have. But a lot of other times you're overlooking things. Like when I have a house with a pool, my water bill is typically like $150 or $200 a month. And my electric bill in the summer is really high. I have $300-400 electric bills a month, and people just forget about that stuff. I got to mow the grass in the summer, so I got a guy out there every week to mow the grass. So there's things that drop, and they just kind of little things just start adding up, and it will just eat into your profit, especially if you have a really low profit margin. You calculated the numbers really tight on a house.
Yeah.
I think also sitting on the market and price drops and concessions, sellers concessions. So in our area, it's pretty typical that people ask for closing costs. We have a lot of VA borrowers, and they don't want to come out of pocket a single penny. So I end up paying, $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 on their seller's concession for closing costs. So all of those things add up and just eat up your profit margin.
Right. Yeah. One thing that's come up recently a couple times here with our acquisitions people in determining, ARV, because they were doing analysis to determine what to offer. But when there's not that many comps, where you have trouble comping a property, just not too many, or the only ones that are kind of old, always err on being conservative, like on the side of conservative. Don't ever take whatever limited amount. If you only got one comp and you're saying, I got to base the ARV on this one comp, you're going to have to be more conservative and be really conservative on the repairs. And then also, like, you just got to build in a little bit more cushion because you're not exactly as sure as you would be with a house that's got a ton of comps.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that you get a second or third opinion too. Like, don't be afraid to, if you have the contract, and I have a network of people locally that they ask me what I think. Hey, can you pop in the MLS and just see what you think about this house? They know I'm not going to steal their deal or anything like that. And you'll be surprised you talk to 5 different people, you're probably going to get 5 different valuations. Now, if you call your favorite 2 realtors, they might say, hey, I'm going to give this guy a really high valuation because I want to get this listing from them. And he doesn't care if they drop the price 5 times. But as far as ARV goes, one of the best ways that I do is just, talk to talk to your network of flippers and friends that are in the business with you. Maybe some guys at the RIA that you trust that aren't going to go around your back and try to take a deal or anything, and just ask them what they think about it. Hey, run the numbers for me, and especially if you're just getting started. I'd help someone all day long in my market if they had a deal and they need a second opinion. It doesn't take me long.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think when we were starting out, and we were sort of like lone wolves for so long, we didn't want, it was always, competition and not wanting other people to know things. And, I think it was the wrong way. If we were to redo things, I think it would be more networking, more talking with people, stop worrying about losing deals and that kind of stuff, because the friendships and the things that you learn from other people and the help that you get from other people is priceless. And,
yeah, if you go to some of these RIA meetings and you see a circle of people that are all talking and they're doing deals and making it happen, I guarantee those 5 or 6 people that are standing in that circle have either done deals together, are lending money to each other, are working together. They're finding a way to make it work. I mean, I just rewrote a note this morning for some guys that I'm working with that are, friends of mine, and they're flipping a house that they bought from me on a wholesale deal. So the scarcity mindset is horrible. I think it's not competition, it's collaboration in those groups and locally. So if you're out there meeting people, that's the best way to go. Don't be in your little hole by yourself. Yeah. That's another way to get in trouble.
Yeah. So with that, wholesaling. So you're doing more wholesaling, right? As you're scaling up.
Yeah. So we're marketing so much that so many deals come to us that we're not interested in, or we just have too much going on. So just another exit strategy has given me the ability to wholesale some properties to other people. And it's probably about 75% of what we do is wholesaling now.
See, and that's where we're looking at being this year too, if things work out that way, and more of our focus. And my question has always been, the bigger you build your buyers list, the better buyers that you have on your list, the more typically you can get for properties. Does it change the way you look at what you can offer for properties? Yeah,
it does. I think when we talked about how you run your numbers now, I kind of buy off my list now. Like the deal comes through, we put it under contract, we try to get it as low as we can get it for. It still has to be a good deal, and I give my acquisitions people full reign to go out and run the numbers. And if you think it's good, if you think it's tight, then talk to me about it. If you think it's good, sign the contract and let's see what happens. So,
but how are you determining whether it's good? Just based on the same way as if you were to keep the property and fix it up and sell it, or?
Well, what I find that when you're wholesaling deals, you have so much different stuff that comes across your desk. You have cheap rental properties, you have renovations, you have nicer rental properties, you have some luxury stuff that comes across on the beach or on the water. And Pensacola is a really weird market. You have a $3,000 house and you could have a couple $1 million house. So I think if you know your list and you know what people are looking for and you know your buyers and you're networking and talking to them and finding out who's active and who wants what, you start to get an idea of what will move and what won't as you get more experience. What I found was if it was a deal for me, I was being so conservative that if it was a deal for me and all these other people are buying off the MLS and paying more than me, then there's margin in there for me to sell it to them and it still be money for them to make. I think price cures everything. So if you can get the deal low enough, then you can do something with it, whether it's keep it or if you can't find the money and you want to wholesale it or, but yeah, analyzing the deals, it does change a lot. If I'm going to keep it as a flip, it still needs to meet my criteria. If we're going to sell it as a wholesale deal, though, it has to be better because my numbers have changed over time where my margins are a little bit tighter and maybe I'm paying a little bit more than I used to a year or two ago. So I think, and send it out to your list and see if somebody wants it. Maybe somebody's going to do all their own work, or maybe somebody is going to see something else. Maybe they're going to subdivide the land in half and sell a lot for $10,000 and fix the house and renovate it. So I find people are sometimes more creative than me, or they have cheaper labor, or they're a one-man show. They're only doing 2 houses a year. They're going to do all the work themselves. The numbers work for them. So don't be afraid to see if anybody's interested in it.
Do you ever do that before you put the property under contract?
No, we don't. Sometimes if there's one that I'm just really not sure of, and they pushed it to me and they said, hey, check this out, and I know one or two guys that might be interested, just to give me kind of a warm and fuzzy that it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll give them a thumbs up. But it's very rare that we do that, just because, I mean, I'm running a business. We want to make money. I'd rather, 900 people on my list see it than one or two guys. So I want to send everything out and try to maximize our profit for everybody that works for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to do it. So any other mistakes that you can come up with that, for analysis of properties? I think maybe we should touch on a little bit more from when people, it's not even new people, it's experienced people do this when they don't have many deals come in, like they've got a dry spell for a month or two, and numbers start to look a little bit different. Calculations start to get adjusted.
Yeah,
because you're feeling the pinch.
I've been there. I think it goes both ways. I think you have a lot of people that are just so conservative. So when you're conservative on your ARV and you're conservative on your repair costs and you're conservative on your holding costs, your offer is just way too low. So at some point you have to say, look, let's get serious. If I want to be conservative on one of those three numbers, maybe that's fine. But as you just start, if you throw $5,000 extra, maybe you drop your ARV 10 grand because you're not sure, and then you increase your holding cost by $5,000 because you think you're going to hold it for a year, and then you change your repair cost, you up your repair cost because there's this unsure of what happens when I pull down the drywall. You just get so conservative that you never find anything, and that's kind of where I was probably 2 years ago, and why I wasn't finding deals, because I was just so scared to lose money But the bottom line is, if that profit disappears, and I did a house, I got experience. I didn't lose money. I didn't make money, but I got the experience. I saw what I was doing right and wrong, and you learn that way. So I see a lot of new people are a little bit scared to just jump in and kind of do it. And then also, if you're being, like you said, if you haven't had a deal for a long time, you're just like, I just need something, just something in the pipeline, and you start making offers without your head,
Mm-hmm.
So I think they can go both ways. So you're never going to be perfect. I think the biggest takeaway from running numbers is what I can tell you now. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was sitting at my desk, putting everything in a spreadsheet, running numbers, getting exact costs. And now that I have more experience, and you build that experience, you see what's a good deal and what's not a good deal. You can kind of get an idea of, okay, this is going to be good. Let's give it a shot. Let's see how we do. And I don't run the numbers as tight as I used to, but you just kind of know. I mean, if that margin's good, or I saw a house in that neighborhood last year, or, the other thing we didn't talk about is running comps that are really old. So
yeah,
I think that's a big mistake too. So people that are using Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and not looking at the house sold down the street, but it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. Appraiser's not going to use that, and neither is a real estate agent or anybody else. So at least in my market, we have street by street is a little bit different. So you kind of have to know and get the take of a realtor that will shoot you straight if you don't have your license, or find a way to get on the MLS to run the comps.
Yeah, are Florida and Tennessee non-disclosure states?
No, Tennessee, I don't think so. But it's not like Texas. Everything's public record. So, okay. But the stuff doesn't get updated very quick. And I also see a lot of people using these estimates and stuff like that. Even flippers and like guys starting out. Just be really careful with that. Yeah. Because when I put a house on the market, if the Zestimate says 200 and I put it on the market for 400, my Zestimate goes to 390, like 395 the next day. So it's really, really spotty.
Yeah, you got to be careful, because even with MLS listings, if you're not careful, you don't know what you're doing. You're looking at comps. It'll say it sold for 170, but in our system, you scroll down to the bottom, you look that the seller gave closing cost assistance of 10 grand. Yeah. So really what they sold it for was 160.
Yep, exactly. We get the same thing, and you don't see that on Zillow or Trulia or any of that stuff. And I know this isn't about running comps, but if I have stuff in a neighborhood, I stay in that neighborhood. Like, what does that neighborhood sell? And a lot of times, I see people that are trying to be appraisers and pulling comps from within a half mile or 1 mile of the property, and just don't know the area well enough, and they're in the wrong neighborhood pulling something that is not even close. Yeah. So
Yeah, a couple hundred square feet within, plus or minus of the subject property, age pretty similar, because some neighborhoods will have newer properties.
Yep.
So you got one that's like 30 years old and you're trying to compare it to something that was built 5 years ago. The people are going to pay more for the 5-year-old property. But
yeah, same with land. I don't know if you guys have a lot of land there, but I did one with like 4 acres, and I comped it as if it was a house. I probably could have got $30,000-$40,000 more for this house. We sold it too low. It moved in. I mean, we had a couple offers in a day. That's when I realized I probably did it wrong. And I looked at acreage comps in that same area, and I probably could have gotten another $30,000 or $40,000 for the house. It was a good problem to have because we made plenty of money on it. But some of those things, size of the lots, square footage, type of construction, all that stuff is important.
And it's tricky. Sometimes it's a guess. It's a subjective, guess is what it all boils down to. You never know. Yeah, but,
it is. I say, an educated guess. But the biggest thing is if you just sit here and analyze hundreds of properties and never actually make offers or go out there and do it, then you're never going to make any money. You'll never lose money, but you're never going to make any money either.
Right.
So you're just going to waste your time.
Yeah,
so
calculated risk.
If you get one thing out of this, I say, don't be afraid to take a little bit of risk, run the numbers. You're going to be wrong. And sometimes you're wrong in the right direction, and sometimes you're wrong in the wrong direction. So I've lost money on houses, and we've made money on houses. So if you're right more than you're wrong, you'll do okay.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I've been meaning to bring up too was a common mistake is the using the price per square foot. For a property that's way bigger than the ones that you got to determine that price per square foot. And I see it all the time, and it doesn't scale like that most of the time.
Yep, I totally agree. You see the smaller houses that have a higher price per square foot and the really large houses that have a lower price per square foot. If you keep that in Pensacola, I think we're around $100 a square foot is on average what we sell at. But I've got some in really nice neighborhoods that we fixed up really nice that I thought I was going to get that, and we ended up getting like 85. Mm-hmm. And it's just because I was going by price per square foot when I was putting my thumb in the air thinking about how much this would sell for, because there wasn't another good comp at that size in the area. The other things are like pools and garages and things like that. So there's a lot of what ifs that the appraisers will take into account, and so will the buyers. So,
2-story versus 1-story. If you're looking at comps for 1-stories, but your house is a 2-story at the same square footage, a lot of times it won't be worth the same amount.
Yeah.
Because cost to build was a lot more for that single-story, larger slab and all that. But that's getting into nitpicky stuff a little bit. It's just things to watch out for when you're comping. Don't try to use a bunch of a higher cost per square foot from smaller houses to a house that's twice the size. It just won't typically scale up unless you see comps that have sold at that larger size.
Yeah, if I have a 1-to-1 comparison, it's gold. Yeah. And I want to make my house a little bit nicer and price it a little bit less if I can, or the same. And if I do that, they move really quick.
Yeah.
So.
Well, awesome, Bill. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with everybody about analyzing deals, and a lot of great information shared. Is there a way for people to get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can, you can send me a message on Facebook. I'm trying to follow the company on Facebook a little bit. So it's facebook.com/Blackjack Estate. And my website is blackjackre.com. So you can find my contact details and email and stuff on there. I write a blog on there. So kind of about my life and what we're doing in real estate. So.
Yeah, be sure to check it out, everybody. Bill really does know what he's doing. He's done a lot in the 3 years, is it, that you've been been in the business, and it's incredible. He's in a high-level mastermind group with me, and honestly, I think when we've met at the last meeting, I think a lot of the great ideas were coming from Bill. Bill's just full of awesome ideas, and really is just a great guy. So,
hey, Danny, one thing I didn't talk about was. The first, I still remember, I think I hadn't flipped a house yet, but or maybe we did that one off the MLS, and then I read your ebook, I think, Flipping Exposed is what it's called. And so I had no idea what marketing and stuff like that was. So I read that book, and I think that's really what got me
oh man, that's
really, really excited about it. And I think had I not read your ebook, I still remember I was in England in my wife's parents' house. and it was like Christmas time,
Yeah.
and we had just done our first deal, and I was reading that going, man, I can do online advertising and send this mail, and really, I think if your listeners haven't read that, which they probably all have, but they read that, you can really see about analyzing deals and when to kind of throw them away and when to keep them. So pretty cool that we're here talking about analyzing deals, and that's how I started going, man, maybe I should analyze these things a little bit differently, or stop talking to this guy, or hey, this is a good lead. So it's pretty cool.
It's always weird to hear because you put stuff out like that and you don't know who's reading it or who sees it. Like I still feel like there's not barely anybody that's ever read that, but I know it's
on Amazon, and I think it's free, right?
Yeah, it's free. Flipping Houses Exposed.
It was on my Kindle, and I think I ripped through that thing in like 2 nights. I was staying up till like 2 a.m. reading it. So it's funny that we're here talking about the same thing now. So yeah. But you got me going, I think. So
and I think the biggest thing that I like looking back on that thing too was that I think it shows people, if you're not finding deals in the beginning, it's typically because you don't have enough leads coming in. People underestimate how many leads it takes to find a good deal, and I think that helps show you're not different. You're not in a different market that doesn't work if you talk to 10 people and you can't buy their house, or they're not good enough deals after talking to 10 people.
Yeah, you've got to have the leads coming in. If I stop marketing, I won't do any business. Somebody told me once, like, I don't know where I heard it, but Budweiser doesn't pay for Super Bowl commercials just to spend money. Like, if the biggest person is marketing, then you should be marketing. I had this conversation last night at a RIA meeting. I said, if you're not marketing, you're going to die. You won't make any money. You won't have any leads. Once you stop doing that and stop bringing in leads, somehow, it can be any way, you have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we send out a lot of mail. We spend a lot of money on marketing, and even with all of that, we still only get a very, very small number of deals per month. So.
Yeah, and you're probably consistent more now than maybe in the beginning.
The mail goes out every Friday, and it never stops.
Yeah, see, that was the big problem with us for a long time, for many years. And it's like what you said, when you're working on the properties and then you stop marketing, your deals dry up and it takes longer to get the next ones going. But yeah, it's just a vicious thing that people, the quicker you learn to keep doing the important things, which is almost always just marketing, like the easier it becomes.
Yeah. Hey, can I say something about my son?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I recently wrote a blog, and if you guys go to the site, blackjackre.com/James, my son James has a heart defect. So in this year of 2017, my wife and I sat down, and when we were writing our goals, we really wanted to kind of give back this year, and we're successful last year. We did some giving last year, but this year is really focused around us giving. And he has a congenital heart defect, and there's this a charity called the Children's Heart Foundation. And so he was in the hospital for a long time after he was born, getting surgery. So I wrote about it, kind of poured my heart out. And if any of you guys are interested, read it. And what I'd like to say is, if any of you guys donate to that charity, then either comment on my Facebook page, send me an email, put it on the website, and I'll match any donation that anybody gives to the charity. So
that's awesome.
We're really going to focus this year on trying to give back time and some of our success to different charities. So.
Very cool. And I'll put a link to that. And he said it was blackjackre.com/James, JAMES. And I'll put a link on the show notes page too at flippingjunkie.com/60. If you're driving or something and you don't have a way to write that down, just remember the number 60 and do /60 at flippingjunkie.com/60. I'll have a link there, and so you can check that out.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. And the Facebook page, because you said make the donation and then mention it on Facebook,
yeah,
right?
it can send it to me on Facebook on that page, Blackjack Estate, or just email it to me, or put a comment on the blog post, whatever. It's any way you can get a hold of me, text message, phone call, email, that's fine.
Very cool.
I'll make a list, and we're matching this year. So.
Very cool.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Well, have a great day.
Danny.
And I'm sure I'll have you on the show again. So.
All right. Look forward to it.
Maybe next week.
All right.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right, man.
Bye.